Wilba, a royal adventurer turned prisoner within her own palace, all over a piece of plastic, everyone. But Wilba, a pig princess hiding a terrible curse while stuck among the clouds. But what if she wasn't? What if her newfound freedom to seek what's ever yonder extended beyond the borders of her own kingdom? And what if the blood she has inherited from her father was actually the key to an ever-expanding story? Or better yet, a story that has gone absolutely frickin' nowhere in nearly 2 years. Yes, I am gonna go this route, everyone, as even though Clay has essentially confirmed that there is no connection to be drawn, I am 100% going to counter Clay by pointing out a couple recent occasions of quote-unquote retconning and or quote-unquote forced lore. But hear me out, as I do think it's easier than it seems. As listen to this, just because a vignette from 18 million years ago hints at the prospect of the fat man himself being the king to flee the Hamlet before Hamlet was even a concept mind, there is a literal no indication of relation now that Hamlet has been implemented for literal years. And before anyone claims that Clay has abandoned the interactions and connectivity of Solo Don't Starve, just note that all quote-unquote normal pigmen still regard her as their princess. So what if instead of shielding Wilba from her father's blood itself, Queen Malfelfa ordered a band of pigs to the continent below and installed a fake ruler in hopes of later protecting her daughter from the truth? That just like her Wilba and all of her quirks, say her love of shouting everything, her nightmarish / scrappy dad is one to yell his own feelings as well. And yes, I know, the Frostjaw essentially diminishes that last point and thus that theory and connection, but really, who the heck cares or even remembers about the ding dong dang Frostjaw in the first place? Guys, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Clay can just retcon whatever they want, and they've been making up their lore from the very get-go in the first place. So let's work with what we do have. The guy is still called the Daywalker in the literal council. It's alright. He is hard-coded to be that. Another thing, his story that really was randomly dropped in the Wilson refresh of all things has indeed gone nowhere and is doing some really weird things with the Scrappy Werepig and Wagstaff, but that's a whole other thing entirely, with Wagstaff now being the lunar side of it all. But once you kill the Nightmare Werepig and then the Scrappy Werepig and then the Nightmare Werepig again, the second time you approach him, he's searching for something. What is he searching for? I float that it's not actually whatever crack in the darkness is gonna be. It's either a way out or a cure, not just for himself, but for his daughter. And again, that's just point number 1. Point number 2, 3, and whatever I happen to ramble about at the very end of this video are all a little more practical. So hopefully this fan-crafted theory starts to actually have a little more meat to it once we talk point number 2 and 3, which are far more practical in practice. And we begin this very segment by simply pointing out that Pigman just kinda suck, everyone. Seriously, apart from a super hidden set of ninja Porkies and the very rare sighting of Adventure Mode's guardian pigs that technically don't even exist, what the heck do we even care about them nowadays? Yes, back in the day, they served some purpose as working followers, but after a few years of merms being updated, their triumphant oinks have absolutely fallen silent. And to add insult to injury, the game's most recent update has buried them and their system's mind even further through the introduction of fresh bunnyman mechanics at that. Seriously, the only love shown towards Pigman at all has come from the brief tease of Pigman raids at the start of a trailer having absolutely nothing to do with them at all. So then, it's as simple as this. How do you go about refreshing a mechanic and a group of mobs that have been in this game from essentially the very beginning without breaking it too much while making sense? You go about reworking and re-implementing the one and only pig character you have ever had. And you know what, Clay? Even if you don't want anything to do with that first Nightmare Werepig connection, blah, 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 it still kind of works. Also, it's kind of time, and I think you know it too. Not only with the Cult of the Lamb refresh and you even telling Devolver Digital to be like, yeah, you know what, we might look into pig following. Check that video out there. It also is just distinctive enough that if it were to come into play and be a little bit re-implemented, I think the curse mechanic could be distinctive from Woody to give it fresh face, new exciting feel, and just fun. And that's a big one because Clay has kind of forgotten about the fun of Don't Starve Together lately. I truly believe they need to bring back impactful releases. I don't remember the last time I was like, oh man, this is gonna be great. But if they did this, a two birds with one stone situation that could be interwoven gameplay and lore-wise at the same time, so the player experience is heightened to something it hasn't been for a while, whoo, great. They need more of that, especially on the character side, which is point number 3. Now this one's going to be far more rambly than anything that's come before it, but it's also going to be shorter because the point is exactly that. We don't have really anything to show for all the DLCs we've been getting for this game. More specifically, Wanda, everybody. The very last character update that we have ever gotten and maybe ever will get, if Clay is to be taken at their word. But let's talk. They introduced Wily from Shipwrecked, and you know what? As much as people don't really like to play Wily, his impact is absolutely astronomical if you know how to actually use him. Wartox was the first true Don't Starve Together DLC constant creature release, which was huge in and of itself. Wormwood is indeed over from Hamlet already, so I can understand people saying, they probably don't want to bring another one over, but let's be real. Wormwood is a huge connection to the moon that Clay has not touched on. More on that in a bit. Wirt was then the second creature of the constant to really get the gumption going, and we already touched on that with Merms. Walter is just all over the damn place. Don't even want to get into that, especially when Walter is going to get a refresh very soon. And then Wanda. Wanda. Should have broken open the game and everything related to it, and nope. Now, will Clay do something later? Yes, but if you really think about what the heck Wanda was supposed to do and mean and everything, whew, that is like the first big red flag that Clay has ever waved in our faces, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. That is the character impact thing that I am talking about. If you want a little bit of redemption in that field, Clay, Wilba is how you do it. You bring Wilba over, you have your fun with her, you give the Pig Kingdom a little bit of a refresh for not only her and her specific stuff, but the gameplay loop that everyone experiences, and oh my gosh, an actual DLC character that kind of feels like a frickin' DLC for Pete's sake. Folks, apart from whatever I'm gonna say now, that's all I got. That's my 3 points. 1, the Nightmare Werepig connection and how to salvage that storyline that just feels so forced and out of the way. 2, Pigman themselves need a refresh in and of themselves. And number 3, Clay has kind of lost what it means to update their own world, their own game, and I think they can salvage it. I still think they can. Will the skill trees continue? Sure, but this can kind of maybe earn some respect back, at least from some of us. But yes, I am making this video because I myself am biased. Wilba is probably my favorite character in the entire franchise, followed very closely, or at least very equal, to Wilbur. So when they did Wonky, I'm kind of still pissed off about that. And yes, I wanted to make this video simply because I had the idea and I wanted to ramble about Don't Starve. Something I haven't done in this setting in quite some time, because usually I have just been kicking Clay while they're a little down, and, well, I'm kind of offering them an olive branch now. No joke. Clay, I think this can do it. Let me know your thoughts, everyone, about the case for Wilba in Don't Starve Together. Do you believe it could work? Do you have counter arguments to what I'm bringing up? Do we even want another character in a game that already feels a little bloated? Something that I have been preaching for 2 years at this point? I don't know. I'm kind of curious. I think it's a great idea. I think it can work. I think implemented well enough, it won't even feel like it's forced, but I'm open to reason. I really am. Because of that very reason, the game is bloated. Just saying. But folks, thanks for watching. Well wishes to all. Praise the Porky Power. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.